So hello everyone and welcome to episode 7 of our Manor Racing save. Now if you didn't watch the last episode, please go back and watch that. We had a belting race in Spain where we actually managed to score a point. I've even uploaded a highlight of the end of the race because it was an absolute belter between us and Oscar Piastri. It was a real battle, really clean, really fair, really enjoyed it. Let's have a little look at what happened then. So if we have a look at the season results, Max Verstappen won it. Carlos Sainz at his home Grand Prix finished in P2, and Lewis Hamilton getting yet another podium for Mercedes as well. So Mercedes looking particularly strong at this moment in time. If we have a look at the drivers' standings, Max Verstappen leads from Sergio Perez in P2. Charles Leclerc is still very much in the fight in the Ferrari. Then come the two Mercedes of Hamilton and Russell, and Carlos Sainz is level on points with George Russell. If we have a look at the constructors, you'll see we are on now 5 points. We are in front of Alfa Romeo. We are aiming for P7, I would suggest. If we can beat Haas and Williams as well, maybe even Alpine's an outside chance, then I do reckon that'll be a big bonus for us. We will have contract renewals coming up for Ollie Caldwell very shortly as well, so there's discussions around that. But if we just have a look at the R&D chart, we are very much in the mix with Williams, Alfa Romeo, AlphaTauri and Alpine. Haas are a little bit in front, but still in that gap as well. McLaren pulling away, and McLaren pulling up towards Ferrari and Aston Martin. This week, it is the Canadian Grand Prix. I'm looking forward to this one. It's a good circuit. There should be some overtaking opportunities. Can we get back-to-back points finishes? Let's find out. So qualifying is over. No surprise to seeing the pouring down rain here in Canada. George Russell, the British driver, getting pole position. Lewis Hamilton up there as well. Max Verstappen will start between the two Mercs in P2. We have to go all the way down for the bottom because the two British drivers at Manor Racing didn't have as good a time. Ollie Caldwell actually picked up a 5th-place grid penalty as well, but we are down all the way in P18 behind Yuki Tsunoda. Let's get to the strategy screen.
Montreal is not only the second largest French-speaking city in the world, but it's home since 1978 to the Canadian Grand Prix. The name Villeneuve looms large over this one, but who can write their own legends today? It's one of the fastest races of the season here at the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, with around 60% of this 2.7-mile circuit taken at full throttle. There are 14 corners to navigate, the very last of which has its very own infamous history and could be the cause of a safety car today. Off the back of a fantastic qualifying session, it's time to see how our starting grid looks like for today's race. George Russell will begin today's event in pole position, and Max Verstappen lines up alongside. Moving on to the rest of the grid, we have Hamilton, Leclerc, Perez, Norris, Sainz, Bottas, Stroll, Oscar Piastri, Magnussen, Ocon, Joe, Fernando Alonso, Hulkenberg, Tsunoda, Lewis, Albon, De Vries, Sargent, Gasly and Ollie Caldwell. And with lights out just moments away, it's time to go down to the track.
So welcome to a sunny Canadian grid. Now, we're happy with that because we know we're a little bit better in the dry. But let's have a little look at the strategy screen because there's a big difference. We did a lot of race strategy practice in the practice sessions at Manor Racing, and look at the difference between the personalised and the projected strategies. So we're definitely going for the soft compound tyre to start and then switching onto the mediums. We could even go a little bit earlier and try and undercut if we need to. So soft onto mediums, that's the strategy we're going to go with. We're going to take out a couple of laps, a couple of little bits of fuel as well, just to give us a lighter car. We've got some positions to make up early doors, but it's a gorgeous day here in Canada. Let's get to 5 red lights for the Canadian Grand Prix. So we go then, 5 red lights for the Canadian Grand Prix. What can we do from P17? George Russell leads us away off pole position. Max Verstappen gets away well as well. We get a fantastic start already, getting past Nico Hulkenberg as we go into turn 1. We take it nice and steady. We don't want to make any contact here early doors. We do take a little bit of a wider line into turn 2, which keeps us on the left-hand side of the Aston Martin of Fernando Alonso as we look to settle in here behind Fernando. Meanwhile, at the front, we switch back. George Russell did manage to keep a P1. Verstappen is now chasing him down in P2. Perez P3. Hamilton down to P4. We've got Leclerc and Sainz, the two Ferraris. One on hards and one on mediums, it must be said. P5 and P6. Then comes Lando Norris in P7, Stroll P8, Bottas in P9 and Piastri in P10. Meanwhile, we're right on board with us as we are looking to chase after the back of Fernando Alonso, but at this moment in time he's getting away a little bit, but we'll all Constantina into this sharp hairpin here as we have a look at the onboard of Fernando Alonso, who's looking at the back of Guan Yu Zhou as we make his way around up this long straight. We're going to get the ERS to power down as we come towards the end of lap 1. We'll switch back to George Russell, who leads away. 6/10 is the gap to Max Verstappen. Then it's Sergio Perez in P3 and Hamilton P4. And on lap 2, we are right on the back of this little battle between Zhou Guanyu and Fernando Alonso. We go to the inside, decide to then cut back to the outside to get hopefully a better run out of this tight right-hander. And now it's going to be a drag race. Fernando Alonso gets away well, as do we. And we are now looking at possibly a 3 wide into the final chicane. Is one of us going to end up in the Wall of Champions? Let's have a look how this all plays out here. We're on the outside line. What happens here? We take a wider line and we jump the sausage curve. That puts us all out of shape. We had to take avoiding action, and we can see now Zhou Guanyu looking to get past us, as is Nick De Vries. Not a good corner at all for us as we come on to lap 3. We lose a couple of positions there, but look to then go around the outside of Nick De Vries, and luckily, if we just have a little look at that, Carlos Sainz spinning out into turn 1. We just saw him as we went around the outside. Carlos Sainz all the way back in last position, which will make Ollie Caldwell feel a little bit better because he is now in P21 and latching onto the back of Pierre Gasly as well. So Ollie Caldwell actually beating a Ferrari as it stands. Meanwhile, further up, that's obviously moved a few people up, including Lando Norris. He's got over a second gap to Charles Leclerc, who's struggling to keep pace with Lewis Hamilton, but managing to stay in the DRS. Hamilton can't keep up with Perez. Verstappen is in the DRS of George Russell. And on lap 3, we are now eyeing up Zhou Guanyu. We can see Fernando Alonso getting away a little bit in front of him. Zhou is on the medium compounder tyre. We're on the soft, and at this moment, the soft is the quicker tyre. We get that DRS wide open, go to the inside line, and this time we managed to get the move done before getting into the braking zone. And we are up into P13 from Zhou Guanyu. Will now try and chase after Fernando Alonso. Zhou has a little look back at us, but decides not to go for it. Up into P13, which seems to be our favourite position in this season. Lap 8, you join us back. We are struggling to keep pace with Fernando Alonso. We're hoping for some battling in front, but we lose the back end a little bit, and we have to take a bit of avoiding action on the wall. Zhou Guanyu belts past us. Nick De Vries not too far behind, but that has cost us a hell of a lot of time there. We just simply lost the back end, and that allows Zhou Guanyu back through. Difficult moments for us there on lap 8. Not good at all. More catching up to do now onto Zhou Guanyu. And on lap 9, we've just had the message. Fernando Alonso is going slow. And Fernando Alonso, what a bad day for him. He's going to be retiring from the Canadian Grand Prix. Pulls over on the left-hand side. I don't believe we're going to get a safety car, but Fernando Alonso, that's a sad sight to see. Fernando parked up and retires from the Canadian Grand Prix. Lap 11, and our rear tyres have had enough. Max Verstappen is in the pit, as is George Russell. We follow them in, and we are in for our pit stop. It's been a difficult first stint. We've not done well with the rear tyres at all. They have overheated. We've held the Alpine up a little bit in front of us there, but we're going to be now coming in for our pit stop. It is a decent pit stop here from the guys. It's something we are working on behind the scenes as well, making his pit stops as fast as they possibly can be, and we will now come out in P20. Nick De Vries followed us in as well, so it's now time to use these medium compound tyres and try and mech up some places. If we've got any chance of getting near the points, we need to start making up some places on these mediums. Like I said, Verstappen and Russell are in. Verstappen's actually jumped George Russell in the pit stop, so Max Verstappen is now net P1 in this race. Perez and Hamilton and Leclerc yet to pit. Lap 14, Sergio Perez is coming out of the pit lane. He stayed out longer than his teammate, remember. Let's have a look where this is going to lead him. We can see Lewis Hamilton there on the right hand side coming out with him, and Checo Perez loses the position to Lewis Hamilton. Hamilton getting the undercut on Perez. He'll not be happy with that. Verstappen leads. Bottas hasn't pit yet, so he's still got to come in. We're expecting him in the next couple of laps. Meanwhile, towards the back, we can see Carlos Sainz hasn't come in yet, and he's holding up Kevin Magnussen for the moment. So Carlos Sainz doing us a little bit of a favour here, as we are 4 seconds back from Kevin Magnussen. Not got the pace this afternoon, it must be said, but working very, very hard to catch K-Mag. If we could get probably P11, P12 now, I think I'd be happy with that. Remember, Sainz yet to pit, and all the way at the back, ollie, ollie, ollie. It's not happening for you, my friend. It looks like he's wrestling the car and cannot seem to keep up with Gasly and Albon in front. Lap 14. Lap 19, 2 battles to focus on in this race, and we're in one of them. We have spent a long, long time burning battery, catching up to the back of K-Mag, but we are now finally in the DRS of Kevin Magnussen in the Haas driver. We will now try his best here. We're doing everything we can to stick with K-Mag and try and catch him and get P11. We think that would be a decent result for us today as we come round that right-hander. Now, the other battles are as follows. Max Verstappen and George Russell going at it for P1 and the race win here on lap 20, as is Perez and Hamilton. So will it be 2 Red Bulls or 2 Mercedes on the podium? Who's your money on? Mine's on the Red Bulls. Who would back against them? But at this moment, it's Verstappen leading the way. And on lap 21, we can see Checo Perez. He's got the inside on Lewis Hamilton. Lewis Hamilton actually makes a mistake, and Checo Perez is up into P3. Great work from him, but Lewis Hamilton very disappointed. It's not like that door needed opening for Checo Perez, but Checo Perez certainly walked through it. Lap 21. Lap 22, we are the closest we've been to K-Mag all this race. We actually go a little bit wider there, but we get a wider entry onto this long straight. We're using the ERS, we're using the DRS. Can we make the move on Kevin Magnussen? We feel like we're quicker at this moment in time, and it's a straight-up drag race, but it's one that the Manor Racing car is going to win. Into that final chicane, we come out of it, and we are now into the lead, well, into the lead of this little battle, P11 for us. Meanwhile, at the front, George Russell is giving it absolutely everything to keep up with and overtake Max Verstappen, but it's not happening at the moment. Max Verstappen seems to have the measure of him, and look at that camera angle, by the way. We've got the helicopter cam going on there. Beautiful work. George Russell doesn't seem to have the answer to Max's pace, even though he's getting DRS down these long straights. Roundup of the top 10. Perez P3, Hamilton P4, Leclerc 9 seconds back in P5. Norris, Stroll, Piastri, double points for McLaren at this moment. Ocon P9, Bottas P10. Remember, Bottas stayed out long and then went on to the soft compound tyre. We are coming on to the final lap of the Grand Prix. Verstappen and Russell battling away for P1, as is Perez and Hamilton for P3. It must be said, it looks like it's job done for us now. We've got it tied up in P11. There's no reason to watch us. We're going to cruise home. Magnussen is out of DRS, but Max Verstappen is leading this Grand Prix, and will he manage to win yet another race here in this season? We're going to ride on board with the British driver George Russell. Can he make an overtake on this final couple of DRS straights? Even with the DRS, he cannot quite get past that Red Bull or even catch up to it, to be fair. Meanwhile, Perez and Hamilton is a lot closer than Russell is to Verstappen. It's Mercedes versus Red Bull on both counts here. Let's have a little look at Max Verstappen as he comes round this right-hander onto this big long straight. Will George Russell be able to overtake him? We ride on board with George Russell nearly 7/10 of a second by the time we get onto the DRS zone. It's a job done, I believe, for Max Verstappen. And meanwhile, Lewis Hamilton, is he going to make a move into the final corner? He isn't, but Max Verstappen is going to come across the line, and Max Verstappen will win here in Canada. Russell P2, Perez will cross the line, Hamilton all the way up to the line, couldn't quite do it. 7/100ths of a second separate those two cars, and we are going to come across the line as we just see us now on the cockpit cam. It's not been a bad race for us. It's not been the best. We're disappointed not to get at least 1 point, it must be said. But as we come round this final corner, it's not been a bad day at the office, and we will come across the line in P11. The only disappointing thing is Alfa Romeo will go level on points in the Constructors. Let's get to the podium.
The drivers are en route to the podium as we speak. What a fantastic win for the Red Bull team. They performed exceptionally.
So there we have it then. Max Verstappen once again on the top spot. Red Bull are looking pretty dominant, as they are in real life. George Russell managing to split the two Red Bulls in P2 and Sergio Perez P3. But Max Verstappen wins another race for Red Bull. Let's have a look at the full classifieds. Max Verstappen then winning the Grand Prix we saw from George Russell, Sergio Perez in P3, Lewis Hamilton in P4. The Mercedes are not letting Red Bull run away with it quite as easy as they possibly could do. Charles Leclerc down in P5, Norris P6, decent showing from him in that McLaren, Stroll P7, Piastri P8, Ocon P9, Valtteri Bottas in the final point scoring position. We were there in P11 with the wooden spoon, no points unfortunately for us, beating our rival Yuki Tsunoda, who was all the way down in P15, but he did beat Pierre Gasly in the Alpine and Sainz in the Ferrari we saw having that spin. Logan Sargent P20, Ollie Caldwell was in last place of the finishing runners with Fernando Alonso, the only DNF of the race. What does that mean for the standings? It means that Max Verstappen extends his lead at the top of the championship, 35 points to Checo Perez. Charles Leclerc in P3, 47 points back. Then comes Lewis Hamilton and George Russell. Lewis Hamilton and George Russell, I would still say possibly just in the title fight, but it's going to take some catching, is Max Verstappen. Constructor standings wise, Red Bull are at the top. It's an 88-point gap to Mercedes, but the fight between Mercedes and Ferrari for P2 very much is on. We are now level on points with Alfa Romeo. We drop a position after that pointless race. It is looking like it's all on our shoulders to score points at the moment. Maybe we have to have a look at Ollie Calder. But I hope you've enjoyed that one. Please like and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one. Ta-ra!